the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, welcome to the September 13th, 2016 meeting of the Village of Rhinebeck Board of Trustees. We do have a public hearing tonight, so before we get to Joel, if anyone wants to speak in relation to the public hearing, there's a sign-in sheet over by the door. And there's also a sign-in sheet if you have any other comments that you'd like to make during the public comment period. We have Daniel Rector with us tonight. Our first string clerk, second string are not available, so Danielle, who's been our police clerk for many years, is here to help us out tonight. So you'll see us shuffling through piles of paper as we're all trying to scramble tonight. So we'll start with Joel Tyner, County Legislator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's for you. Gina, if you could take one pass down. So I want to be the bearer of good tidings. I and a lot of other people have been pushing for 6 years for the restoration of the Dutchess County Human Rights Commission, and that's finally happening officially. So that's really good news. An hour south of us, Westchester County, they have a Human Rights Commission with subpoena power. I would prefer that happen here, but you gotta crawl before you can walk, and walk before you can run, and run before you can fly. So I'm not gonna try to complain too much. The 5 letters that I had circulated last night, 2 of the letters that I circulated at last night's meeting of the county legislature, 6 of us, including myself, signed on to. The one on top, I think, in your packets is about the anchorages. I believe you guys passed a resolution within the last month or two. Again, if you're not aware, Steve Hutkins of Rhinecliff, he launched this website, hudsonriveranchorages.org. It's amazing. Again, if you go to rhinecliff.org, it's very easy to find the link to make a comment about it. And just so everybody knows, the comment deadline has been extended to December 6th. There was a January 21st letter sent by, I think it was the Maritime Association of Tugboat Operators, because some people are saying this is not about oil. It is about oil. And riverkeeper.org in particular, if you go to their facts, myths, and they really put it out there, because basically the folks who have proposed the 10 anchorages and the 43 berths admitted in their January 21st letter to the Coast Guard that it is about this exponential increase in the fracked back in crude from North Dakota. Even Meg Tedisco pointed out at a forum that I hosted recently in Rhinecliff that the Coast Guard had a real tough time, the first responders on the Mississippi River, to one of these back in crude oil spills. Andrea Raplansky here in town in the village, and I and other people, 6 of us last night signed on to my letter that I circulated about EpiPens. I think maybe you have to be living under a rock not to be aware of the media coverage of the exponential increase in EpiPens for folks who have allergies for different things. And so the one letter that I circulated last night that at least 6 of us signed on to is saying, why can't Dutchess County, the ambulances and the doctors and the hospitals and the schools and the nonprofits follow the example of Seattle and King County, Washington. And this is one of the model programs that the National Association of Counties talks about, and have these epinephrine and syringes, basically incredibly much less costly, but it does the same job. And so I'm hoping that you can take a look at that letter. Also, if you go to my website, these letters that I circulated last night and who signed on to them, it's all on my website, theduchessdemocracy.blogspot.com. Another letter I circulated, I think 3 of us signed on to, has to do with the jail. A lot of people think the jail is a dead issue, but I attended a meeting yesterday of the advisory committee on the jail issue, and Greg Pulver was a county legislator from Pine Plains, Stanford area. He pointed out that it's only several months from now that they're going to start designing the jail expansion. As far as what's happening with Sheriff Butch Anderson's about $35 million renovations, that has already started, I believe. But as far as designing the actual jail, that is not going to start for another 3 or 4 months, and that's pertinent because at the very least, there was lip service at this meeting yesterday about trying to see if maybe we don't spend all the $192 million, or when the bonds are fully paid off, $274 million. I wrote on the back of this, if you care about democracy or your tax dollars here in Dutchess County, I urge you to check out this report. Even though it's 18 months old, this is from the Vera Institute. It's called Incarceration's Front Door, the Misuse of Jails in America. Arrest, charge, pretrial release, bail, case processing, disposition sentencing, and reentry community supervision. They point out 6 different decision points. And they point out some really state-of-the-art, cutting-edge stuff that's happening, best practices in all different parts of the country, to make sure that people who don't need to be in jail aren't in jail. And we're not doing any of those. And so don't believe me, just go to this report. It's the Vera Institute, vera.org, Incarceration's Front Door. The Daily Freeman did a piece a few weeks ago about how Dutchess, Ulster, Sullivan counties, we have 1,700 less jobs now than we did 7 years ago. That was Tom DiNapoli, the state comptroller. So I'm doing a forum on this issue Tuesday, September 27th, across the street at Town Hall at 5:30 p.m. You're all invited to join me. It relates to another letter that I circulated, at least one of my colleagues signed on to, and that has to do with the Northern Dutchess Alliance. I have a day job, I can't get to all the Northern Dutchess Alliance meetings, but recently I pulled together a conference call with Melissa Everett of Sustainable Hudson Valley, Michael Schumann, who wrote this book, Local Dollars, Local Cents. He's a national local economy expert. And Ann Davis of the Marist Bureau of Economic Research. Those 3 people, 8 years ago, did the Blueprint for Economic Development Lois report for Northern Dutchess Alliance, the locally owned import substitution. They want to do an update and expand it for countywide. So I urge people, go to dutchessdemocracy.blogspot.com. Come out and join me Tuesday the 27th of this month at 5:30 at Town Hall. Learn more about it. And the last thing I was going to say is, again, heroin is a very big issue, not just in other parts of Dutchess County. I mean, friends of mine, families that are friends of mine, right here in Rhinebeck, heroin has been a big issue. Why did I bring that up? There's been a lot of coverage in the Poughkeepsie Journal. There's a forum tomorrow night, I think 7 o'clock at the Family Partnership Center. I'll be at it. I'm inviting everybody also to join me this Saturday at the Family Partnership Center at 11 o'clock in the morning, because for a long time now I've been pushing for PARI, the Police Assisted Addiction Recovery Initiative. I spoke on the phone with the Broome County Sheriff, who's not a Democrat, he's a Republican, and why can't we do here in Dutchess what they're doing in Broome County and all over the state, all over the country, make sure that heroin addicts, the non-violent ones that aren't dealers, that they get treatment instead of incarceration. And I really want to see all 25 of us in the county legislature sign on to that. So it's paariusa.org. The media doesn't seem to want to report on that letter I circulated on that 6 legislators signed on to a month ago, but to learn more about that, this Saturday, 11 o'clock in the morning at the Family Partnership Center cafeteria. Thank you for your patience, I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Don't go. Do you have any sense as to why the rest of the legislators hadn't signed on to your letter?
There's
Well,
5
the
letters.
Anchorage.
5 letters, which one?
The Anchorage.
You know, I will confess something that if you got a chance to read that letter, you might realize. There's a bottom paragraph, I will confess, that talks about trying to get Dutchess County and the state to be fossil fuel free. I'm not going to say the names of 2 of my friends on the other side of the aisle, but before this issue started hitting all over the papers, and a lot of Republicans and Democrats on both sides saying good things. I wish some elected officials sort of would oppose it more strenuously as opposed to just calling for an extension of public comment period. I have been able to get some of my friends on the other side of the aisle to vote for different things. It's always a shock when that happens, but it does happen. The comment that I got from one of my friends on the other side of the aisle was, you know, the Dutchess County executive has been, you know, good on this issue. I never said he wasn't, but I don't think it hurts to have the county legislature weigh in. Actually, the statement on the floor last night, you can watch the webcast, is this letter's to the letter wasn't to the county executive, the letter's to the Coast Guard. So it's a big issue, and some of the politicians and elected officials that I think were not so strong, I think the resistance is growing. And again, it's because of Carolyn Marsh Blackwood and Elizabeth Spinzia who've educated me on this, and Steve Hudkins of Rhinecliff. Just his website is amazing. He pulls stuff from all over, the Hudson River Anchorages.org.
Have any of the others circulated similar letters without the extra language that more have signed on to? I mean, what's the sense, there's 25 legislators. What do you think their stance is against the Anchorage?
I'm not going to say their names. I like them all. Believe it or not, I like all 24 of my colleagues. A couple of them, originally, back on, July 24th, I originally sent a letter to my 24 colleagues on this issue. And I got some of the responses back were kind of ludicrous about how, what do you put in your car to drive? What do you heat your home with in the winter? Well, the point is, this is fracked crude that's coming down our river to refineries in New Jersey. And they make it clear that it's because of the lifting of the ban on American exports. This is not really going to be stuff that goes in our own homes. And I knew that even back then, but it's sort of like a little bit of a ramrod mentality, unfortunately, that exists too much. I would love to, I think you and I had some communication a year or two ago about the puppy issue or something about the Ulster County. Right. Do me a favor, I'm Joel Tyner at earthlink.net. Feel free to email me, like Joel, this is what you circulate. I promise, I swear to God, because the deadline is December 6th, so I can circulate another letter, or actually, the 15th of each month is the deadline for resolutions. We can have a Crookshank-Tyner resolution, or Tyner-Crookshank, or whatever you will. Just email me as soon as possible, because the 15th is the deadline, and today is the 13th, right? So basically, I have 36 hours to get 3 co-sponsors on that. So it's Joel Tyner at earthlink.net. And I'm 99% sure I probably wouldn't change a word. I'm most assuredly I wouldn't change a word, because I would tell everybody, this isn't me, this is Scott Crookshank's word.
Hey, one more question.
Yes.
So the oil's coming from the west. It's coming from the Albany area. They have to get it down to Jersey somehow, so either have barges, trains, which are not good either, or a pipeline. What do you think about a pipeline?
No, I hear that. It's just, my hair is sort of white-gray.
Mine too.
Right. And I'm 52, and I remember the 1973 oil embargo, and we were all going to make that. I was like 8 or 9 years old. We're going to make that change to conservation and energy efficiency and solar and wind and geothermal and renewables. That's what we're going to make the change. And I'm 52, and it's 43 years since then. And the thing to me is, I know maybe some people are sick of hearing about this, but the 2013 Cornell-Stanford report that came out that proved New York State, I know this sounds ludicrous, but just Google it, don't believe me. Cornell University and Stanford University came out with a report 3 years ago. All of New York State's energy needs to be met. Wind, water, sunlight would create 4.5 million new green construction jobs, 58,000 permanent green jobs, would save 4,000 lives annually, and would save $36 billion a year. Not only that, the Sierra Club came out with, they have readyfor100.org. If you just go to any internet search engine, type in ready, FOR100.org, ready for, there's over a dozen municipalities all across the country. They're like San Diego. The Republican mayor of San Diego is like, you know what? The Democrats in the Common Council passed this thing to, 100% fossil fuel free by 2035. I'm going to do that. They got the San Diego Chamber of Commerce behind it. And that's, I'm not talking about government municipal buildings. I'm talking about the entire city of San Diego and Burlington, Vermont, and Aspen, Colorado, East Hampton, New York State. Some of these communities are doing it, where 100% of the energy is fossil fuel generated.
But I have to say, Howie, one thing is that this parking of the barges, it's only to hold their oil until their prices are where they want them. It's not, we're already transporting it down the river. That happens every day. But for us to provide our river and our edges of the river and our access to the river, for them to hold their oil just as a parking place until they get the price they want.
I'm not saying that
I'm not
I'm
willing
for
to do
barges
that.
or railroads. I'm just saying it's going to happen. It's happening. You can't stop it. So
You can
they're
stop
finding
them
different
from-
ways of getting the oil from Albany down to New Jersey. And they
Yeah,
want-
getting it there is one thing, but parking it here is another,
Right.
to me.
I was just asking in your opinion of a pipeline. That's all
I can't, of course I'm not for that. I can't overemphasize enough. Steve Hutkins lives, Rhine Cliff, which is not the village of Rhinebeck. His website, HudsonRiverAnchorages.org, which I quoted from liberally. And I feel so stupid because I'm standing here in front of you. I did not memorize the talking points. Some of the talking points are in that letter, but Steve Hutkins' website references exactly that point, Gina, which you probably know better than I do. That it's just, and as it is right now, there's no safety concerns because they can park if they want to. That is what's going on, where they're just looking to feed as much oil into the addicted Americans' gaping maw for fossil fuels as possible. It is just to part, and the sad thing is, unfortunately, there's a lot of rumors running around and about the safe, moderate compromise might be only, 5 anchorages in the Kingston-Rhinecliff area. I mean, that I've heard that a number of places. It's really scary because some good environmentalists have said, and that's going to be, I've heard something like 50 miles along Port Ewan for 2 anchorages. I've taken up way too much of your time, but
Thank you, Joel.
Yep, thanks, Joel.
yep.
So next we have a public hearing related to amendment to the code specific to trees. So there are two pieces in the amendment. Meg, do you want to introduce the change? The second one, yes. You can give us a little background before we open the public hearing. All right? So Meg Crawford is the chairman of our tree commission.
Hi, everyone. We have asked that there be a change added to the law that put tree ordinance into effect quite a long time ago that would allow municipal funds to be spent on private property near the edge of the road. And because before this time we restricted ourselves to our plantings, we've done over, it's probably close to 300 trees we've planted in the village of Rhinebeck in the last 6 or 7 years. And we've restricted those plantings to within the right-of-way, which is somewhat difficult to figure out in the village of Rhinebeck because the right-of-way is different on every single street. But we've done our best to do that. And in having to do that, what's happened is that we've often had to plant under wires. And for any of you that have noticed what happened when Central Hudson came through, any large shade trees that were planted under the wires were pruned dramatically to clear the wires. And this happens every 4 years. And our shade tree population in Rhinebeck, many of those trees are reaching the end of their lives and they're dying. And with the drought we've had this summer, if you go through town, you'll notice that there are a lot of big maple trees in particular that are suffering dramatically. And we want to replace those trees with a variety of big shade trees so that going forward we'll have beautiful shade trees, trees that grow to be 50 to 80 feet tall and not only provide beauty for Rhinebeck but shade. They sequester carbon, they help with stormwater control and all the rest of it, which underwire trees like crab apples or cherries, as beautiful as they are, can't do. So in order to do that, we really need to plant away from the wires. We also want to plant away from the sidewalks because these trees that were planted a long time ago in the medians have lifted the sidewalks with their roots because they're trying to get to the lawns on the other side, and in the process they lift our sidewalks, and then it's a big expense and danger to the residents of Rhinebeck. So this law would allow us to plant on the lawn side of the sidewalks big trees that when they grow will still provide the shade and the beauty that these other trees actually never have been able to do because they've been restricted in many cases by these overhead wires. So this fall, in fact, we are hoping to plant 14 shade trees along Route 9, where there are many of these trees that were butchered this spring, and a couple of others along Livingston Street, where there's another row of these Norway maples that have been severely pruned. And so this law allows us to do that. What it also allows us to do is to maintain those trees the first 5 years so that we can train their branches so that as they grow, we'll lift the branches up so that lawnmower can get underneath them. If there are any crossing branches, we get rid of those. So as they grow, they will be less of a maintenance problem for the homeowner. And then after 5 years, that tree becomes the property of the homeowner, and they're asked to take care of it. We also would hope that when we put it in, they will take care of it, of course, so that it thrives. But these trees being planted in the lawns will have a much, much better chance of growing quickly and in a healthy manner than they did in the restricted spots they were in before. So that's kind of the background.
Meg, when was the tree planting? Is it November 4th?
The tree planting is November 5th on a Saturday.
Okay.
We welcome volunteers always to help us plant these trees, and if you have questions or anything, we'll be putting up posters about where we're going to meet with my phone number, but you can also call up, I presume, Pat, if you have any questions about that, or if you know somebody or a group of students. We love students that would come out and see some of you in the audience tonight for those plantings. That would be great. It's a thrill to see these trees growing year after year once you put them in.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you, Meg.
So just to touch a little bit on what Meg said, the request was specifically to plant beyond the right-of-way. That was the request from the Tree Commission. And as Meg mentioned, the right-of-way, that defines the area that, in our case, the village can go onto private property to maintain structures and also provide for public safety. There were many legal discussions about what we can do beyond the right-of-way, and that's why we went with the definition of allowing 30 feet beyond the sidewalk, because we don't have well-defined rights-of-way, because it's different for every lot and every street. We've gone roughly with a distance of...
30 feet from the curb.
What did I say?
30 feet from the curb, not the sidewalk.
Yes, 30 feet from the curb line, from the edge of the street. Which in most cases allows you to go beyond the right-of-way, but we're not necessarily using that term because it's not really definable here in the village. The justification for that, which allows us to expend public funds to plant on private property outside the right-of-way, is defined in Section H on the proposed local tree law, because it contributes to the overall appearance of the village and allows for, preservation of the sidewalks, etc. The other amendment to the trees under G would be defining the cost of who's responsible for the cost of tree removal, and that the cost of tree removal is well defined in the code in cases of trees that will require removal for public safety reasons, and that cost is defined to be the responsibility of the property owner. But when it's an elective takedown, that code is silent on who pays for that, and that's what the village boards over the last 7 years or so have addressed that in different ways. So let's look into define that in the code. Anybody else got anything before we?
I have one question, Howie, maybe you can help, because I am new to the Tree Commission since the spring. So it used to be that, or help me, maybe I don't even know what, but it used to be that the homeowner was responsible for a takedown of a tree. And then it changed to that the village would pay to take down a tree if someone requested it. Is that correct? And then now
That's the way it was for a while, yes, but that was not a resolution. Or when the tree law came out, for some reason, we assumed it was the village responsibility, which was not
So
true.
to Heath's point, the code was silent on that. So when it came to public safety and there was a dangerous tree, the village could order the homeowner to take the tree down, and if they didn't, in the name of public safety, would take the tree down and then charge the homeowner.
So, and is that where we are now, that if it's an issue of public safety, the village is responsible for the cost of taking down a tree? Is that?
No.
No?
No, it's never been that way in the code. It's the responsibility of the property owner.
Oh, so it's still is that, even
Yes.
if it's a safety issue? But we can force them to take it down because of safety,
Correct.
but the homeowner's responsible for the cost?
Correct.
Okay,
That was defined in 2009 when the tree law was put into place.
Okay.
Why they didn't address elective takedowns, none of us here know, but
Okay.
that piece wasn't
Okay.
addressed. Anybody else? Make a motion to open the public hearing, amendment to the Village Code, Chapter 106, trees.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Did anybody sign in to speak on that? Check that for us. Taylor. Nobody wants to speak on trees? Anybody?
Just have
Go
a
ahead.
question. How will
You
the,
gotta come up and,
State your name.
Danielle doesn't know everybody, so we gotta state your name so we can get you in the record.
Frank Mazzarella. So just a question, when you're saying 30 feet from the curb and assuming there's a lawn there, are there areas in the village which have pavement, they have concrete, like I can think in Gigi's or areas where some of the restaurants are? Is it where trees may now be located in the median strip? Is there any way you thought, was that just a place where there would be no trees?
No, we will plant trees still in the median if we have to, and that's the only option. And in fact, on the main streets, we are coming up with problems moving forward because the cutouts were so tiny for those trees that when they have to come out due to death, it's going to be hard to remove those trees in order to replace with another tree without destroying the sidewalk. So I think going forward, we're going to have to review the whole sidewalks in the center toward the village so that when time comes, that we're going to have to replace the locust. One pair is dead now. We can figure out how to cut those sidewalks to allow for much more enlarged planting areas.
And do you foresee there being no longer any problems with the power lines then because of the setback? That it would be easier, you wouldn't have to do the typical V cut to the tree, it would just be a matter of
Right. I mean,
dropping it along one side a little bit?
when we do plant under the wires now, because we have to, there's no choice, we plant underwire trees that don't have to be cut. But if there's a lawn and there's ample space away from the wires, that's where we want it. Yes.
So one of the big pieces that, I don't know if everyone's read this though, is this is with the consent of the
That's
landowner.
correct.
Yes.
So if someone doesn't want it planted in their lawn 30 feet off the curb, it doesn't happen.
Okay, so
That's
they can
correct.
refuse to have it.
Absolutely.
So that may affect the plan
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
And that's been happening actually all along. We only get permission, even though it's been in the right of way, before we plant a tree with the homeowner. But now we have a written document that says they agree that they would like the tree, they agree that to allow us to go onto their property the first 5 years to maintain it, and that they will take responsibility for the tree after the 5 years.
It sounds like there are a lot of different pieces of the puzzle that may be, I hope we're successful in preventing from being a very spotty type of solution, right? Because this landowner doesn't want it because there, so I know it's hard.
It's not mandating the location, it's just allowing for greater flexibility as to where the trees can be planted. And one thing, in terms of the cost we've spent, the village has spent a lot of money over the last, I think there's a written comment about it, over the last 7 years on tree removals, and by redefining that responsibility, allow the village to spend some of the money we were spending to take trees down on maintenance, planting more trees, and also planning. And that's, I think, what Scott wanted to address. So.
No, I just, this is a great tool and gives us more options for planting. The thing that I would like to see going forward though is I'd like to see us have a plan. Because to your point is that we may very well have some trees that are 30 feet beyond the curb and then some that are in the median, and we'll have maybe what might be a little bit of a disjointed planting. So I think that we should invest in some sort of urban planting plan that gives us a little bit of something to follow, so that when we get in situations, we know we have 2 or 3 options in certain situations. So there's some consistency to what we do.
Well, I like what you learned at your seminar about that program that kind of gives us that tool I think it was $3,000.
Now, there are inventory tools that we can use that tell us exactly what our inventory is now, what kind of condition it's in, moving forward, where the spaces are that we can plant trees. And we could use this inventory to keep an update, as well as writing a tree management plan that would not only include planting, but hopefully, if we had the money to do it, would include proper maintenance and pruning of those trees.
Addressing Scott's point, when you're talking about planning, I think that's a good time to integrate a lot of other items as well, because as someone, I think John Clark mentioned, the street furniture, where does it go, the wires, et cetera, the possibility of burying, so it becomes like pretty complex.
It's a big puzzle. We're trying to work on all those pieces, and we would like to come up with a comprehensive tree streetscape plan, because, you know, as you see, we have trees out here that somebody put a lot of thought into plant them. You know, the locust on the main drag here, and now 40 years later, this group sits here and says, well, what were they thinking? Or the big trees, now the huge shade trees that are right under the wire. So, you know, we want to come up with a plan that outlasts any of us here.
But I do commend the tree committee on this brow proposal and the law. I know you guys worked really hard on it and put a lot of time and effort in it, and I think it's valuable and I think it's important.
I think there's another thing I want to comment on, because I think it's behind maybe some of Scott's remarks and some of your remarks. I think we really need to think hard about what trees are going to replace the core trees in the center, which are all two species, pear trees and locust trees. When we move further out, we made a major effort intentionally not to plant the same species, because we're losing singular species at a huge rate, and everybody recommends increasing the diversity wherever we can. So we are pushing that. In the core area, I understand that it makes sense to have a uniform look in the very center, and we're going to have to investigate which trees would be the best to replace those locusts, and a lot of them are in bad shape, so that is coming up quickly. So that's something we need to think about, but I think in thinking about that, we need to think not only about the tree species, but where they are in the sidewalk. And the ground around them, the structural soil, all those things that will benefit these trees.
I just thank you to Maggie and their team of volunteers who put a lot of work into this.
Anybody else with comments on trees? Nobody signed in? All right. So we have two letters to be submitted. I'll read the first one. Somebody else want to pick the second one. I got the John Wexler one. So I'll give you a copy of this, Daniel, if you don't have it. So Friday, he wrote, "Dear members of the village board, I'm heartened by your proposed actions to add on to amend the part of the village law that deals with the tree commission. Close is my letter of resignation to you from June 2014, where I emphasized that all of the tree commission at that time opposed my efforts to simply enforce village law. The logic was that trees in the right-of-way simply belong to the village, not the property owner. And the village had the responsibility forever to maintain all such trees. Needless to say, up to that point, from 2009 to 2014, much money was spent on such work by the village. 2 years later, I'll make the following points to you. In terms of tree inventory management, please encourage the tree commission to carry out this mandate. Recommendation of tree maintenance, removal, and care. Likewise, the language is clear here as to what the tree commission's responsibilities are. Removal or pruning of trees interfering with public streets, sidewalks, and property. The village shall have the authority to remove such trees and charge the cost of removal as a municipal lien to be levied as a special assessment or tax against the owners of the land upon which the tree was situated. Please start to enforce this section, and note that my survey 3 years ago of neighboring villages and cities found that such language, the same language, RE tree laws is present everywhere I looked, is enforced. Your September 13th resolution enforces this. The tree commission may provide the village with a list of trees within the village in which present a hazard to the public and which are in need of removal, pruning, or cutting. This list should be updated regularly." So, in his comments, you heard about the apply. I know I read it fast. I apologize if I was mumbling. He just quoted the current village code, which outlines the cost for dangerous trees, and it does outline the code about how it could be levied against the taxes, et cetera. And we are working with the tree commission to give us a list regularly for the trees that are need removal for safety reasons. So just to address those two. Any other comments on this one? Who wants to read the other one? What was it?
Want me to read it?
Go ahead, Gina.
Yeah.
So,
If you want to go
This is
halves,
from
I'll go
John
halves.
Clark. He's a planning board member and a village resident. Due to previous work commitment, I cannot attend the public hearing on amendments to the tree law, so please read the following statement into the public record. Graceful rows of shade trees placed between the sidewalk and vehicles forming a continuous canopy over the street have long been a defining feature of the village. The priority for the tree commission should be filling street tree gaps in the public right-of-way, not diverting village efforts and funds to plant trees on private front lawns. Street trees in front of sidewalks have significant benefits, including safely separate pedestrians from passing cars, creating a more pedestrian-friendly village, reducing traffic speeds by 5 to 15 miles per hour, resulting in fewer and less severe vehicle crashes, provide summer shade to sidewalks and streets, lowering average temperatures and making the asphalt last much longer, visually unify the varied buildings and setbacks along the street, absorb more exhaust emissions and street rainwater runoff, screen ugly utility wires when carefully planted and trimmed, increase adjacent home and business values by an average of $15,000 to $25,000 according to real estate estimates. Trees set back behind the sidewalks and too far from the street do not have nearly the same safety, environmental, and economic benefits. And remember, larger trees planted back up to 30 feet from the street near power lines will still need to be seriously trimmed on one side, but will not provide any screening for the utility wires. Street tree rows are an essential element of the village's historic character and needs to be protected and restored, just like historic buildings. The village should inform residents on appropriate trees for private lawns, but public funds should be focused only on the public rights of way and in front of the sidewalks. That part of the tree law amendment should be rejected. I have 3 additional suggestions. First, the tree commission should be expanded to become a streetscape committee or a complete streets committee with qualified voices on all sides to better balance the somewhat conflicting needs of sidewalks, street trees, parking, benches, utility lines, and street widths. Second, the village should narrow certain streets to slow down traffic, save on paving, and provide wider landscaping strips for trees to grow. For example, Beach Street is 27 feet wide with on-street parking, while the adjacent block of Livingston is over 36 feet wide. Finally, the village should also consider planting trees in the parking lanes, allowing larger tree wells farther away from the sidewalks and in front of the utility lines. They could be surrounded by permeable paving, protected by bollards, coordinated with adjacent driveways, and spaced far enough apart to leave room for plenty of room for parking and convenient snow plowing. And that's it. And he sent a lot of photographs to support his points.
I did talk to John today, and the only comment I want to make is that he references the streetscape committee, which we had agreed to establish, and we've been kind of waiting for the power lines committee to get the first bunch of its work done, so that we can have members of the power line committee, the tree commission, and probably the planning board, and most likely other members of the public to put that together. So that's hasn't been forgotten, just hasn't happened quite yet.
There's a lot of pictures here, 5 or 6 pictures of examples of trees in the streets here. Charleston, South Carolina has a pretty large tree in here. I'm just curious as if to whatever was raised, the pavement was raised and the tree roots were cut. We don't know that just by looking at these pictures, but that's a problem that we have here in Rhinebeck, obviously, with the trees planted next to the sidewalks.
And we do have 2 in-street trees.
Yeah, we do, right on
On
Oak Street.
Oak Street, if you want to see an in-street tree, there's two on Oak Street. And an in-street telephone pole as well. On
Yes.
the other end, yeah. Any other comments? Okay. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone need any further before we go bring this down?
I just, I don't know, is it too late to say something? It says 30 feet beyond the curb line. Some streets don't have a curb, so can we put or edge of the street next to that, just so in the future, when we're not on the board, everybody will know it could be the edge of the street,
Yeah, I don't have curbs.
Edge of pavement
pavement, whatever they want to put. Leave the curb there also, but or
and/or.
edge of pavement.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the local law as submitted
With,
with
Change.
the singular change defined by county.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I think we have a lot of people for different special requests, so I think we'll go through our department reports quickly and then move on to everybody's individual concerns out there. So the first one is the treasurer's report. Karen's not with us, so I have it here. Our general fund balance is $360,000. Our tax account is $1.5 million. And I'm not reading all the individual dollars and cents, giving you a very close estimate. But they're on here if you want to see them. They'll be part of the record. The water fund, $593,000. Sewer fund, $633,000. Vouchers for this month, the general fund, $7,320. The water fund, $68,862. Sewer fund, $35,580. We have a couple budget amendments from the prior year. You guys see all those on there?
yeah.
And the vouchers are downstairs, ready to be signed. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget amendments as submitted by the treasurer.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How you want to do these?
I don't have,
Did you see them before?
no,
Okay.
there's no wastewater adjustments.
Oh, there are none?
No.
Oh, okay, then I guess
I
we'll
don't know if you want me
table,
to do the water.
no, we'll table the water one.
Okay.
Since Gary's not here to address it, so.
Okay.
make sure they leave that there. Moving on to, the operating fund has been emailed to everybody. Should have it, or the operating statement, sorry. So for the police department, in August, 26 incidents in the town, 123 in the village, 11 tickets in the town, 116 in the village, total of 10 arrests and 13 accidents. Officer Daniel Killian was hired around this time last month. We had the speed trailer set up during Fair Week, once on Platte Avenue. The majority of vehicles travel between 0 and 30, which is the limit. Average speed was 27. Also set up on East Market Street following day. Average speed was 40. That's a 30-mile-per-hour zone. So much more speeders that are set up again on East Market Street. Average speed was 39, so if people saw it, they slowed down 1 mile per hour following that. But on the next day, they got used to it, they went back up to 40. So 1,163 out of 1,259 above the speed. So there's speeder, people don't speed on Platte, but they do on this market. I think that's the gist of it. You got anything else for us? Fire department?
For the month of August 2016, there was a total of 95 calls, the busiest month on record for the Rhinebeck Fire Department. It's about 3 a day. Right? There, and thank you for our volunteers for responding to 3 a day. It's pretty incredible. There were 18 fire calls, 7 in the town, 6 in the village, and 4 mutual aid to the Rhinebeck Fire Department. There was 68 EMS calls, 20 in the town, 40 in the village, and 8 mutual aid calls to Hillside Fire Department. And there were 9 motor vehicle accidents, 5 in the town, 2 in the village, and provided mutual aid to Hillside Fire Department 2 times. And there is no other further business to report.
Planning and zoning? Nothing. How about the, I know we talked about the zoning commission.
We were going to reconvene the zoning commission. We had gotten some comments back from our zoning enforcement officer. He's had some issues over the past couple of months that he didn't feel our code addressed properly, so he's asked to meet with the zoning commission before we put together our draft for public hearing. So now that summer vacations are over, we'll reconvene that group and invite him. I'd like to invite you too as well. But yeah, I'll set up a date and we'll do that. And that's all we would probably need is just one more meeting to address those issues and then set the public hearing.
So our goal is to have a public hearing on a complete review of the zoning code by the end of the year. So with a number of additions and revisions by the commission. Okay.
The draft is, the draft is, we've had it.
It's been out since June, and there's been very few comments. Right?
That's correct.
Through the group that was circulated to. It's been circulated internally so far. I felt Meg's giving me the eye. It'll go out to the public once it's ready for public hearing. So it's getting comments from zoning board, planning board, village board, etc. so far.
Would you like the tree commission to weigh in on anything that has to do with trees before the draft is in the public hands, or?
Does it address trees?
I don't know if it addresses trees, but we
Well,
can certainly.
Does it address sidewalks?
Does it address sidewalks? I think it addresses the materials that sidewalks are made of.
Then that.
I think it's in there.
The structural.
Structural soil is in there.
I'm pretty sure it's in there. Based on previous recommendations from trees. Been successfully used
Have we
once.
had success with the structural soil?
Yeah.
The one out in front of the
Front of the
bank?
bank, front of the.
Yeah.
Those trees are thriving?
Doing amazingly well, given the drought this summer.
Highway.
Jobs completed for last month. They cleaned out catch basins. They're continuing to do brush pickup. They were kind of screwed up on their schedule because of fair and some people being out, but they're on track now. They completed all street tree trimming, the mowing of the parks and village, mechanical work on equipment. They repaired both mowers and maintained all small engine equipment. They repaired and replaced crosswalk pedestrian signs. They prepped the road for blacktop repairs and blacktop various locations throughout the village. We've got some pending projects and we've got the bids in now, and we've got the lowest bid for the Montgomery Street Astor Drive curb and walkway reconfiguration. I would like to get that moving forward if we can do that.
Have you read the comments from the engineer?
No,
Came today. They were emailed to all of us. So there's some, it's not as easy as just hiring a contractor, because what we have there, we have some issues with different elevations, and by merely replacing the curb doesn't necessarily solve the problems.
right.
So actually, if you kind of read through there, we have to determine the height of the curb, and it might be difficult to do now if we're not repaving that road. So there's some work
Can
here.
it be put into the same project though, done at the same time?
They can, sure. Yeah, I mean, that would be the best scenario, is to repave Montgomery, replace all that curbing and sidewalk, and then repave Montgomery Street, that all at the same time.
Right. Well, I know that they've been extremely patient on getting this done.
The other thing too, it mentions in there that we're getting rid of the grass median, and we're pouring a sidewalk from the current sidewalk all the way to the curb. I don't know who would agree to that.
Well, I think that would allow for the accessible transition, right? Is that what the?
No, this is the whole way.
Oh, I don't know about that. And it also discusses the addition of a catch basin in there to divert the water, which
Right,
is causing the pool.
because that is part of the problem. And they completed the West Market storm drain, so,
Our project's done?
yes.
Our piece?
Our piece is done, now they're gonna
Yes.
go onto the private property with the pipe that goes into the back.
So that went very well.
It
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it's good. That's great.
So there was a change order on that project. When it was originally designed, they did not account for replacing the curb that was placed in front of, primarily in front of the local restaurant. It was kind of a stopgap a few years back that was installed by our highway crew. And it needed to be replaced, and permanent curb put in. So I'd like to make the motion to approve the change order as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll take the water department. 15,860,000 gallons treated the last month, 390,000 gallons of backwash. We used a net of 15,470,000. Looks like they did some cleaning of the tanks. And they did some mowing up in Violet Hill.
And it looks like we have an issue with one of our trucks.
Where's that
On
in?
the top of the front page. You've got the town section here. Colorado seeking estimates for the engine repair, engine failure.
Oh, I hadn't heard about the engine failure. Good.
I hadn't either, I just saw it.
Okay.
2010.
Yeah,
6-year-old truck.
it doesn't have that many miles on it. Wastewater?
Wastewater treated last month in August was 3.9 million gallons, and that compares to 4.1 million gallons for July. Gallons of sludge processed was 50,100 gallons. That compares to 38,800 gallons for July. Pounds of sludge processed was 5,297 pounds, and that compares to 4,660 pounds for July. The two grinder pumps that we approved at last month's meeting were purchased, one for the Village Green and one for the Astor Home. And the tree trimming work was done around the exterior of the chain link fence. This prevents the leaves from blowing inside the site, which leaves also blow into the open containers of the water. So it'll help out with keeping those leaves out of there. And that's it for the wastewater department.
Okay, from the committees, the tree commission.
Basically, Meg and Tom had gone to the Relief Conference and they found it very helpful and informative. And they would really like to see if we can either get grants or figure out how to get the funding for a tree inventory program. Another workshop is offered for information about structural soil, and there is a supplier in Kingston that we worked on the Brow legislation, and which we just passed tonight, so I think that's okay. We've got some tree applications. Donna Cartelli at 72 Livingston requests to fell a silver maple. and that's been approved. David Miller on East Market requests to prune the locust tree overhanging, and he would do the work himself, which I think we approved that last meeting. Here's some status of trees that are dead and need to be removed for safety. I've got those bids out to 2 other people. We've got 1 bid for these, but I'm expecting 2 other ones to come in shortly. Do I need to read all the addresses? I don't think so, right? Tom's been doing a lot of watering. 1 tree on Crossmore died but will be replaced. Oh, and our planting for Saturday, November 5th. And we can use volunteers, and I believe the cemetery is doing a planting the following day. Is that correct, Meg? So, and I have Adelina, a nice high school student who actually contacted me to see when we were going to be doing planting so she could help us again. I know, phenomenal. So that's great. So I think that's it. Anything else since you guys are here? Okay.
Gene, one of those minutes, what meeting was
That was the
August
August.
2nd.
There-
that? Had a meeting substance.
We have,
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I sent
Yeah.
it to
I think we just got it today.
I don't know, they were in mine. I don't know.
Okay, that's what I had in my packet, so,
There are other applications for complaint
oh,
for that request for some.
yeah, since Pat's been out, things are a little,
Here's the September 6th one.
oh, okay, so, yeah, here's the fall, should I read the fall plantings, or the requests?
Maybe the request.
Well, according to the law, right, I mean, and even the current law, they all have to be approved by the village board.
Yeah, we should have a full plan in October. They'll present us.
Okay,
I'm happy to do that. What I need from you is that form, because most of these people have all been notified and they've agreed to it, but I
Right.
know you need the form from them, so.
yeah, we do.
We do need that form so we can go after them and get the signatures.
Okay, so I'll work with Pat on getting that form out to you. Just send it out by email, so you
We
can-
have the form, we just have to have Rich put his final approval on it.
Because some of these don't say whether they're in the right-of-way or beyond the right-of-way,
Right.
right? So we don't know. The form doesn't have to be filled out if it's not beyond the right-of-way.
That's what we filled out for all of them.
It's
For every one of them?
Yeah, because then the property owner will agree to water and maintain the tree after the 5-year period.
It's gonna be for everything now.
All the trees, yep.
Yeah. Okay. And the next tree committee meeting is Tuesday, October 4th at the Village Hall.
I have nothing from Parks and Recreation, from the Power Line Committee. They submitted a letter here as of last Thursday. They've had a total of 172 responses to the online survey, and their goal is to continue to push for responses and make their presentation to the village board at the November meeting. Moving on to our special requests. We have a request from the school district for their PTSO party at the mini park, which they've had the last few years, and I think there's a break, but they had it previous to that. So basically, it is the mini park, I think, this Friday from 3:30 to 5:30. So
It's really nice, and the public should go if you can. It's really a nice thing.
So maybe next year they can get us their request before they head out for the
Right.
summer break. Well, it's only giving us a couple of
So
days.
it's this Friday from 3:30 to 5:30.
Yep. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for the back-to-school block party.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the lemur slicing. I see Mr. Frischkinet out there. So this is the same as last year?
Yep, past 2 years.
Last two, yeah. So to promote the Madagascar program?
Through the district. So we have two,
Yeah, come on up.
we've got kind of two.
You have to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Henry Frischknecht. I'm a teacher at the school. I teach social studies and anthropology. I also am on the board of Culture Connect. So I'm wearing two hats today, kind of. So the first placement is for lemurs. We've got the school program, which is curriculum-based, and we run through the middle school. Part of that, and has us coming into the community, bringing a little bit of Madagascar to the community. In the past 2 years, what we've done is we've hung lemurs in the trees with little QR codes with information about Madagascar and things like that. We're expanding that a little bit. This year, through the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to do like little lemurs, and some of the businesses and some of the people in the chamber have offered to give like 10% off or something like that, and we're kind of working on that piece. But in terms of village approval, from my perspective at least, the lemur stuff is going to stay the same. We have it on the same type of wood. We protect the wood so that if it rains, it does not run or anything like that. We have it up for about a week. That's Madagascar Day this year in the school is October 14th, so that's the day that they would go up.
And up until Friday, October 21st.
Yeah, yes, so about a week.
So I'll make the motion to approve the placement of the lemurs.
Great.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Hi.
Moving right on to the, don't go anywhere.
I know. Well, can I bring my kids up here then?
Absolutely.
They're part of the next one.
They gotta earn their, we're gonna sign their sheets for,
No, this isn't even.
Introduce themselves.
Oh, that's right, we are.
so they don't need it too? They can't double dip?
What's this, for community service?
Yeah.
Does that count for you guys? Can this come into community service? I don't know, they can do a lot of work.
Sorry. Come on back in October.
The thing that the kind of line I want to draw is now we are Culture Connect, not part of the school. So on the agenda it does say like RHS or something. So I want to make sure everybody knows this is part of Culture Connect, which is a non-for-profit 501c3, not part of the district. It's important. Basically, what this part of our program is. Actually, why don't you girls introduce yourselves, and then maybe you can talk about what the program is, and then we can.
I'm Stephanie Cassins. I'm Caroline Voorhees. I'm Emma Clegg. Okay.
Right, we have 3 phases: fundraising, education. Second phase is going there. Third phase is coming back and sharing out. Okay, that's what I would talk about.
So next summer we're going to go to Madagascar. Mr. Fisher went this year with Culture Connect, and we're working with City Stony Brook, Sarah Ina, Sunshine Comes First, a lot of other organizations. And right now we're fundraising in 3 weeks, like you said. Fundraising to go on the trip, because obviously it's expensive. Next we'll go on the trip second, and then come back and educate the community about the culture of Madagascar and what it's like. So right now we're fundraising, and we're working on a 5K, a golf tournament, soccer tournament, and then other little projects that aren't fully together yet. Just hopes that we can raise money for next summer.
So to clarify, Culture Connect does not charge people to attend the trip. We try to maintain equality that way. The sentiment there is we want to have everybody have an equal opportunity for this experience. There's an application process we go through. We've got applicants, we have them interviewed, and then we choose them based on that, not based on whether or not they can pay. So they have to fundraise roughly $30,000 in a year, and so the 5K is part of that. So that's where we're.
So, and that's what we're looking at, the application for the 5K?
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So how long do you go for?
We're going for 3 weeks. That's the plan, at least. I can give you the whole itinerary if you want. But
No,
it'll take forever.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Did you have my son Reed Fox at the soccer camp? Yeah.
How long of an airline flight is it?
It depends on which way you go. Essentially, you get on an airplane, you're in the air
Sorry.
for about 24 hours.
I thought it was pretty far, okay.
I'd like to make a
Did you
motion.
know
No
the
more
chaperone?
questions.
Hallie wants to be a chaperone.
Next year.
So we reviewed the course, Sergeant Dunn's reviewed the course, and it's only going to be a very short distance on actually Village Street. Most of it's on the Chancellor and the high school, middle school campus. So it will be a minimal impact to our police force.
And schedule-wise, is it October 22nd? Any other events that day, Pete?
Not that day, I'll do it for the next day.
Next day?
Oh, okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
Second.
Great.
I think the insurance is already attached. Any other discussion?
How long was the flight?
24 hours. 24 hours. Well, it's 2 flights, you know, it's broken up.
Yeah.
It's rough.
All those in favor?
Bye. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good luck. Thank you.
So moving from the 5K right on to a marathon. We're going to warm up for a marathon with that 5K, which is scheduled for May 13th. It's the same weekend as last year. This will be the 3rd year, I believe, correct?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve this application as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye. No, it's already done.
It's already done.
It happened.
Yeah.
We have Mom's Land Action. Was there an addition?
No, they just, you wanted more information, so they actually got permission from Lee LePage at Winter Sun, and they have 4 hours a day. It's more contained, more specific about when they would be there and where they would be. So they just made it more specific.
Where is it?
That's here.
4 hours a day.
And that,
Yeah, it would be 4 hours a day. What weekend?
between now and the election.
It says on both weekend days. Oh, so both Saturday and Sunday?
Right.
Every other weekend.
It says both weekend days.
But every other weekend.
Every other weekend.
Every other weekend, both weekend days.
Oh, that's something different.
It's basically every other weekend.
Okay.
Is this, who's the most familiar with this? Is that you, Gina?
I know her, that's all I know.
Is this a local branch or chapter?
lives here.
Or, no, but the group that she's representing?
I think she's in charge of the local branch, but that's all, I honestly, I don't know. I just know that she lives in Rhinebeck, and I've worked with her in the elections before.
So they want to set a table on the public
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
So, do we have a motion, or?
Should I make a motion? I'm happy to make a motion that we approve it and allow it.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Sally?
Discussion?
Well, I like something that we started doing a couple of years ago, is that we started with coin drops. And we started, because we got lots of requests from people that Penn State was one of them, and a couple of other outside entities wanted to do coin drops, wanted to set up tables. So we've decided to limit it to local groups, local not-for-profits. And I wonder if that same thing would work, should be applied here. Is that,
Well, it's
because
definitely a not-for-profit, and she's a resident. So
I'm maybe a little worried about this opening the door for lots of other things. Is it, if it's a local chapter?
Yes, I guess the question, is it a Rhinebeck group? Like we have the Rhinebeck, Lions Club that does their coin drop or?
I don't know, but here's the issue. She applied a month ago, and it's leading up to the election, so they can register voters and give out information about gun safety. So if we don't approve it tonight, then it's going to be another month before it's allowed, and it just seems like it's needlessly restrictive to me.
And we're also talking about putting it in a table in the public space, which
Right. That's correct.
most of them are not. Usually we have requests for in front of the farmer's market.
Right, well, that's where she first wanted it.
Right.
But you said no.
Well, we didn't say no. We had kind of the same discussion that we wanted to maybe limit that to the local political parties before the elections and other local Rhinebeck not-for-profits. Which is the discussion we had in the past, like Scott said, about coin drops. We had one, we said no to a cancer fundraising because it was Penn State affiliated, and if you live here, maybe you don't want to have someone shaking the coin jar 16 weekends a
Okay,
year.
well, it's up for a vote.
Yeah, I mean,
so-
that's the. Any further discussion?
No, I agree that we should keep
Okay.
it local because, like I said, we've had more than just Penn State. There was something else. I think,
Yeah, there's
over
been a
the past
number
5
of
or
it,
6
just-
years.
It's
I just
escalated.
think with the popularity of the village, I think that we're going to start to get more and more requests, and if we don't somehow limit or kind of condition our approvals on something, these requests will come in.
So let's start by clamping down on gun safety. Okay, so it's up for a vote.
Is there no further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Good.
Your ayes mean nay.
Nay, whatever you
Nay.
So, next one is, we got the marathon. We got a Duchess for Hillary request at the farmer's market.
Is that considered local enough?
Is it endorsed by the Rhinebeck Democratic Committee?
I have no idea. I would presume.
Anything on that one?
Is this also to try to register voters? Are we in the discussion phase?
Set at the table to hand out literature for Democratic candidates for the fall election on Sundays during the farmers market hours.
I know Betsy's a village resident, right?
Yes,
Yeah. Is she on the, does she represent the Democratic?
I have no idea.
Okay. I think in the past, at the farmer's market, it's been the Rhinebeck Democratic Committee, and I think the Rhinebeck Republican Committee. I don't know about any others beyond that.
I'm not involved in this, I don't really know,
Okay.
except that I am voting for Hillary.
So you don't need to visit the table?
That's
Are
right.
Are you registered? You can just buy tomatoes, unfettered, right?
So does anyone want to make a motion to, for this one?
Sure, I'll make a motion for it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? I would personally like to see it come from the Rhinebeck Democratic Committee as opposed to the Duchess for Hillary.
That's fine, I don't know why you're telling me this, but you can just announce it publicly, but I don't. I
Well,
have
this is a
nothing-
public meeting.
I know, I have no control over it, so
Yeah.
I don't, whatever you want you'll have to let them know.
Well, it's what the board wants. You voice your opinion, we all voice our opinion, and then we vote. That's how it works. And you being a member, I believe, of the Democratic Committee, I figured maybe you would know.
I
So
don't
we'd
know.
utilize all the resources we have
In
available.
the past, like we said, it's been the Rhinebeck Democratic
Yeah.
Party and the Rhinebeck Republican Party. It's no problem, right? We're trying to keep things local.
Mhm.
Right. So maybe we can ask Pat to reach out to Betsy, and maybe that they can resubmit their request, possibly through the Rhinebeck Democratic Committee, if the Rhinebeck Democratic Committee wants to support. I'm assuming this is the Dutchess County Party, but I don't know that. I don't know what Dutchess
I don't know
County
that
is.
either. I can't speak
Do you know
to
how?
it.
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll make sure I ask everybody.
Okay.
So, any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Center Clause, building use. We have a request for them to use this room on Center Clause Day, which will be December 3rd. So this is more than the building use, this is the entire, there's two separate ones. Friday for setup on December 2nd, and Sunday cleanup, and then event on Saturday the 3rd. Anybody got any questions on this one?
And none of this is any different than
It's all the same.
the past.
We just have to have another meeting, which is pending. Planning meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve this one as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's an old one.
Yeah, that's what we passed. So, other business, we have the map, I know we've been kind of kicking this one on the hospital crosswalks, or the crosswalks on Montgomery Street that the hospital wants to move and put them in. We've addressed it a few times, but never had the exact location, so we do have them now. And you're good for the PD. I think there had been some concern with the existing one being so close to Rhinebeck, correct?
Yeah, that's one we're removing.
Yeah, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So we're removing 2 and adding 2 to provide a safe cross from the Baptist Church, which leads this park into the hospital, and then putting one at the corner of Astor. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the placement of the crosswalks per the hospital's request.
Second, this is where we,
Yep.
yeah, it's much better.
Right. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
So as long as they know that there's a potential project where we will be repaving Montgomery Street, so, and we may not be doing it this year, so.
Yeah, he's very aware of that, and I told him, I said, if you paint him, you may have to
Paint him
paint
again.
him again.
And he would be responsible for the repainting?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, October 28th. Actually, we don't need to announce that. There's a Dutch County Hazardous Waste Disposal Day, but that's not for the public. It's for schools and government agencies, so I'm not sure why it's on there. We have the special request forms, you guys looked at that?
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions on it?
I mean, Pat will know best. if this-
Well, she wrote it.
Right.
We'll wait until Pat's back to address it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Looks like we have vacation buyout from Karen McFarland, 35 hours. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
I'm good.
Have verified those are available.
Yeah. Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Did we skip the Primrose Hill?
I didn't get to that one yet. Do you know?
You're in correspondence.
Yeah, okay. That's just, is that where you guys are now?
Well, we
Well,
skipped.
Karen was after. Yeah.
Sorry. I think I have that one somewhere.
I guess we're gonna do that next
But we
month.
we're still on other business, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be in correspondence. I guess that's it. So we have, I guess that's the next one. Minutes. We want to do the minutes approval?
I don't know if they're gonna read them, if they don't read the letter.
It's old. It's old. It's already, the date's already passed.
They just read it, it's part of the
The
course.
meeting minutes from
Then we'll go
August
up to
16th.
Yep.
would come.
I reviewed them without any issue.
Okay.
You don't have them?
They,
But they were emailed to us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for August.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So we have the letter from Primrose School.
Yeah.
So I think the last time we left it, you guys were gonna send us a proposal for the law.
Yeah, we were going to come back and just share with you some of the research we've been doing.
Okay. Now, there was also a plan, right? A site plan, did it?
Yeah, we brought some drawings just to.
But that's gotta go to the planning board, right? That- I
It
mean,
was just a kind of open discussion because there are a few options that just to
okay.
talk about, and rather than
Alright.
presenting a plan,
So
so
we-
we haven't really developed a site plan.
Okay, so we have the letter basically, you know, outlining the mission of the school, for the most part. And then you guys want to address the board in the public comment too.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody sign a list for public comment?
We're on the
It's not that we're not going to let you talk, I just wanted to see if anyone else,
I don't know, I was just telling him something.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted him to read it in the record.
okay. Well, thank you guys are both right there, and we'll let you guys go. Come on up.
Dennis Backleys, 109 East Market, on the corner of North Parsons Street. Let the board be aware that there's been new signage put on North Parsons Street. These signs have been put up, they're always temporary. As of fairly lately, DOT came in and removed temporary signs they had put up to be fair, giving directions to vehicles leaving the fair. And then they came and put more permanent signs, taller and larger signs on North Parsons Street, on the west side of North Parsons Street. I've got some photos. I'll share with you. And previously, through the years, since we've lived there, we've been there since 1980. And Dutchess County Fair always put up their own signs. In the last 3 years, the DOT has been putting up signs, and after the fair, they would take them down. This year, they changed the procedure, and they put permanent signs up. I find that these signs have no reason to be in a residential area. I don't know if the village approved them, or they've been requested by the fairgrounds to be put up permanently.
I don't remember hearing about it, but it's on a village street, it's not even on the, right?
It's on a village street,
Yeah.
yeah. And those are the signs. So I was hoping the board would address the situation, and hopefully we could get those removed, and we find it very intrusive. and not in keeping with the
Is
historic.
that the only street that they're on?
Yes, only street.
And then put them on Mulberry or Beach?
Mulberry, they're not even on Route 9, they exit the fair, the main entrance to the fair exiting, there's no signage there. It just seems to be at that particular location. I don't know if the fairgrounds requested that, since they were the ones who initiated putting signs up in the beginning. I know they just wanted to alleviate the workload for them. So I hope the board will address it at some future time.
What, would we have to send something, a request to the DOT? Is that what we would have to do?
I think we would start just by reaching out to them and seeing how they ended up there and, you know, and why and who asked for them and, you know, I don't know that,
What was the rationale? And
What the rationale?
I don't know that they have the authority to put them on our street, but I don't know that they don't, because it's probably within a certain number of feet of their road, so we have to
Well,
look at
it is, but it's only 5 days a year that,
yeah.
you know, and why the village residents in my neighborhood have to
Right.
visually see these for 360 days a year. It doesn't make sense. I mean,
Right, I agree with you.
You know.
Yeah.
They should only be temporary
It's a little
signs.
intrusive.
And they're usually temporary, and
Yeah.
this year, they took down the temporaries, put up the permanents.
Yeah, they put-
And
they put-
that's across the street from my house, I told Dennis that I was gonna take them down, and he said, you might wanna look at the back. $1,000 fine, right?
So, I think $100.
It's a little sign, $100 fine for removing them.
I appreciate the board talking to me.
And we'll definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want your photos back?
Sure.
So the rest of, the only other two are you guys from Primrose School.
Good evening. Thanks for having us on the agenda tonight.
You can move that mic in.
Okay, am I really that tall? Okay. Hi, I'm Kieran Riley. I run the farm program over at Primrose Hill. I spent most of my day today having small children out with farm animals to learn how to interact with nature and with our very small agricultural program at the school. We barely call it a farm, but it is an aspiring farm. And I would just like to read this letter because I know you've read it, but I'd like to just put it in the record that this basically states our mission, yes, and then towards the end, really wanting to open the conversation with the village, with the Board of Trustees, that we strongly believe that this property, it's a neat little property in the Gateway District that has the capacity to really, really be in line with everything that Rhinebeck, at least to me, I just moved here a few years ago, I live in the village, I'm really happy to be here. It's a neat village that I think has this aspect of agrarian history, agrarian sort of contemporariness that coincides with like a lot of city folks and a lot of the modern development that's also happening at the same time. So I'll just put that out there and just say, Dear Village of Rhinebeck, and whoa, this sounds loud. Dear Village of Rhinebeck Board of Trustees, over the past several months, Primrose Hill School has been working very hard to find a solution regarding the keeping of farm animals on its property, which would be amenable to the Village of Rhinebeck Board of Trustees, compliant with current zoning regulations, acceptable to neighboring property owners, and in harmony with the mission of our educational institution. As we have expressed on prior occasions, Primrose Hill School's learning program places great emphasis on children's relationship to the natural world. For this reason, much of our students' time is spent outdoors, where they reap knowledge from the many lessons nature has to offer. In this environment, they are encouraged to work the soil, plant flowers and vegetables, and of course, care for animals. This provides them with an appreciation of the origin of their foods that they eat, and inspires them to treat all living beings with the same respect regarded their fellow classmates. These are values which we find to be in common with those of the community of Rhinebeck, which struggles to balance a desire to preserve its history, its rural traditions, and distinctive landscape with changing demographics and market interests. As more open space and farmland has been lost to commercial activity along the Route 9 corridor, we feel there is an urgent need to provide our children with an environment where these common values may flourish. A place where they may gain the knowledge to become stewards of the land and the tools which will help them preserve it for future generations. With these goals in mind, we have considered adjustments to the property's current pasture land configuration, which we hope will be acceptable to all interested parties. We would be grateful for the opportunity to discuss our ideas with the Village Board of Trustees and request to be placed on the agenda for your next meeting, which is tonight, September 13th. We look forward to meeting with you and working together to find a solution which best meets the needs of all members of the community. So thank you for allowing me to read that, and I guess I just have to say that moving forward, we would like to continue what we are doing, however, with your blessing. Of course, there are some concerns raised about animal quantity, what the property can actually hold. It's not completely a production farm, even though we actually have some sausage, and we harvested our first pumpkins today. There was a few pumpkins that the children actually planted in the spring. They were able to come down today, as a matter of fact, and the third graders cut their first pumpkin. So we'd like to be able to continue these activities, however, of course, with your blessing, and I think working with Cornell Cooperative Extension, it's possible to find what is the best healthy farm practices for this property. And one logistical thing to consider is, as opposed to going to numerical animals per acre, is to consider what Cornell does, which is the best farming practices, is weight per acre. So you look at the general, that's how they gauge like what's healthy pasture for animals. So instead of like you can only have one animal on that entire property, which is what the new zoning I know has been floated would allow us with the killer program, you look at what the weight per acre would be, just for as something to throw out there. Also, we have these drawings. Frank Mazzarella has drawn up some very wonderful drawings as to how we could reconfigure the pasture to actually expand that fenced-in area. But we don't want to do it too much. So anyway, I'll stop right there. And thank you again. Frank, did you want to share some of that drawings you have?
Just before I pass these out, I am here both as a resident of Rhinebeck, and also my daughter goes to Primrose Hill School. So I think what Kieran just read, a lot of that is true. The mission of the school, I think, is in perfect keeping with a lot of the values of the town of Rhinebeck. Land conservation, I can even speak as a professional, as an architect or someone who's very interested in that. So I think they are trying to improve on that property. Right now there's a lot of parking area. It was a medical office area. There are a lot of buildings, and none of them really are interesting as structures or architecturally, and they've done some work to improve that. We're not proposing a site plan right now, so what we're going to have is just some ideas in terms of several options in terms of the acreage for the farmland. And there's still, it's going to be tweaked somewhat. It's even an increase as to the amount, compared to the amount of current pasture acreage. So I'll hand these out. So just quickly, the first sheet is just existing conditions. The second two sheets are two options for one of the pastures, the one in the triangular portion on the left-hand side of the site. There was an issue with neighboring residential properties on Kramer Road. There was a request for a setback to alleviate maybe some of the tension there that may have been occurring between the neighboring properties. I think the 100 was talked about. What's drawn there is a 50-foot setback, and there are a few issues there to consider. So currently, there are trees there which provide a buffer. I think both parties are interested in maintaining those trees, but there's an option for that to become a possible playscape for children, where they also have, continuing along that lot line, it would be a continuation of that. question as to whether or not that is something that the neighboring properties would be interested in, or whether they would prefer it to be animals rather than children. There's also another option to, on the second sheet, which shows another area across the drive on the other side of the property, which is currently a parking lot, that asphalt could be taken up, and you have the potential for another ½ acre there of pasture land, perhaps a little bit further from the residential lots. That is actually the town village property line as well. Perhaps there would be a little bit easier in terms of, relations with neighboring properties. There's even the potential for that and the other pasture, the existing pasture closer to the mobile station. Maybe in the future, if the building in between those two lots was taken out, that could become one kind of common farmland.
Frank, where would the medical office parking be relocated to?
Well, that is going to no longer, I don't know what the time frame is for that to be phased out and no longer be medical office. So there are other, and there is.
What would it be if that would not need any parking at all?
I think that the vision is that in the future that they will all be the same. Those three, that building is the same, identical as the other two, as the one. So I think the vision is that that may become another school building for maybe other grades. And we haven't drawn a site plan, but just some ideas which are kind of floating with that. Possibly there could be a loop, there could be a loop, and that would be parking along the roadway. So that happens to be a very flat area there, and it's relatively free of trees. They actually, during the fair, they park cars there. So that could be parking always along, perpendicular to the street along that area. We've talked about maybe having like more of a walkable campus and that there would be a parking somewhere else. The idea is that this to become a very bucolic atmosphere in keeping with the mission of the school. Even that one parking lot, which is now on the street side of the existing school building, which has been renovated, has the potential to become more of a lawn. So we haven't gotten into site design yet, but it just kind of wanted to get over and start discussing the acreage and the farm animal issue first.
Has the planning board suggested a certain setback there along Kramer?
We have.
Yeah, the setback came from the proposed amendment to the farm animal law. But the public hearing, I believe, remains relevant.
So two things. One is that, so if we had our draft law, which said that there was two key pieces to that. One was the setback, right, which we proposed as 100. Could be 50, could be 100. But the other thing, so you want to talk about the animal quantity. That was the other thing that we addressed in that proposed law. And so tell us a little bit more about the poundage.
Okay. I think both Kieran and Jonathan are the experts.
Because those are the two things. Those are the two things that really kind of like, that are, we proposed the law, and then what we asked you in the last couple of times Jonathan's been here is just to come back with a revision of what you thought would fit, and, for your mission and for that property, and that also addresses maybe some of the concerns of the neighbors. So one was you proposing 50 over 100, which is certainly considerable. As long as it stays wooded, something like that. And then, so tell us a little bit more about, you're thinking that there's a pound per acre that is more appropriate for animals. And what does that really equate to? I mean, if it's, tell me, is it 2,000 pounds per acre?
500.
I think also Kieran maybe mentioned, what is it all in terms of why do you have different animals? I know certain animals serve a function in terms of teaching the children fiber arts, for example. Others have to do with cycle of life. So what is it, they may have spoken about this before, but just to talk about the purpose of it.
And I think when Scott used the term come back with, the idea, and I think what we requested last time, was we want to see a proposal in writing well in advance of this forum here, so we have a chance to look at it, and if you say 500 pounds, you know, so we can research it ourselves, so we can have, you know, an educated discussion here, because this sounds similar to what we talked about last time, and the request was, bring us the changes that you would propose to the law that has been proposed. It's been kind of in limbo for a long time, and from what I understand, potentially, well, obviously we haven't adopted it yet, but I don't know if the current law is, you know, perceived to be too restrictive for you guys, or what is it that you want? We understand the concept. I don't think anyone has a problem with that. Obviously, the site plan is going to need to go to the planning board, but it's specifically in terms of the amendments to the farm animal law. What is it that you feel would be appropriate, and why? What are the supporting documents that would show that to us, or the subject matter experts?
Understood. So it sounds like we should write something up for you, but in a
Absolutely.
like one sentence nutshell, what it
Sure.
would mean is, as opposed to one animal per 1 acre of fenced-in pasture land, which is a new proposed amendment, we would go to 500 pounds per acre of fenced-in pasture land. So we're actually making the concession to go from the parcel lot, which is the original zoning law 30 years ago was written to be for the entire parcel, which actually most towns and villages in the state of New York is written for the parcel lot, not for fenced-in pasture. It's to allow farmers to actually conduct their business without any restrictions, because it's not easy making a living farming. And so these zoning laws were an attempt to be a compromise. So I'm assuming 30 years ago, it was an attempt to allow those people to have, you know, 3, 4, 5 horses on that property without saying 500, you know, without it being too restrictive, because then they would have only allowed to have 1 horse, and the guy couldn't do his farrier business there. He wouldn't be able to do it. So 500 pounds per acre would allow us, say, I mean, we'd have to do the math, but like, as opposed to 1 goat, you know, for all of that pasture land, which is above and beyond what a goat can even handle. Plus, we actually walk our goats. We did today. We walked our goats around the property. It's great. Better than walking a dog away, because they eat poison ivy and stuff like that.
So it could be 5 or 6 goats.
Exactly.
That
So,
makes sense.
and you know, our horses right now are kind of killing the pounds per acre thing, and we're actually looking at maybe losing the horses, unfortunately, because we're trying to get a program going, a equestrian type program, more working with the horses, but because they're so large, they eat more and they go to the bathroom more. So it's like we're trying to balance out what's actually sustainable for that pasture land. And we're feeling that out. We feel like we know what it is. And Cornell suggests, you know, 500 pounds per acre, which would allow us a cow, you know, a horse, several goats, and several sheep. And that is very, very fair to the animal. Like, there are farm operations where you have a herd in a room like this, and they just feed them hay, fatten them up, and then slaughter them. That's not what we're doing. So we definitely are interested in having a healthy farm, healthy operation that suits the village as well, of course. So that's what we're suggesting.
I think if we were to entertain that pounds per acreage, it wouldn't be set in stone. It would have to be fluid, because it might, you might have 5 goats one year, but then you might change to
And then they grow.
2 pigs or something. You know, it might change.
I don't think it's ever going to be specific. It's going to be pounds.
Right.
So who would monitor that? I mean, you might have
Code
50
enforcement
chickens one
officer.
year and a cow.
Right.
Well, no chickens at all.
Planning board's gonna monitor
Our
that?
chickens already got evicted. We have them we have a little parcel that's in the town. We thought we could put them in the town. I mean, technically they are allowed in the town, but it was better off, put it this way, even though they were in the town. We have a little, you can see a little
Yeah.
triangle.
You need more
It's
acres in the
right.
town, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was an
Chickens,
acreage
like
thing, so it's
10
like, forget it.
acres.
Actually, we can't have chickens. I was mistaken on that.
So to
we got rid
Keith's
of them.
point, you know, this is all good stuff. It's good for us to be able to visually see in the numbers. It's 2 acres, and it could mean 1,000 pounds worth of livestock, and could convert to 10 goats or 5 goats, and so that's good. So, but what I would suggest is just look at what we've proposed, rewrite that so that it reflects one of these options, you know, and then bring that, and so that, obviously, we're gonna have a public hearing coming up in the fall based on all of our planning and zoning changes.
Right.
And so that will be subject to that if it passes, the village board. The other thing I would remind you though is as you start to capture some of this pavement, don't forget that you will go before planning and you will have to provide parking. And so you'll have to look at what's required of a school and the population and be able to provide, even though it's nice to, everyone would love to see all the asphalt pulled up and made into pasture, whatever it may be, so they can have more animals, but you're gonna have to come up with a parking plan that's gonna address your population and use.
Yeah, we're fairly confident in that. There's several options. I mean, it is a small property, but there are a lot of creative options and neighboring properties as well. And the Dowden family, I may be jumping the gun on this, but they have been working with us over the past year to have expressed interest in working with us. They actually border us. Well, you have to go across Central Hudson, like a 30-foot right away, but they really, really want to work with us. They already have some sheep over there. And that would actually change all of this because most of our animals are actually primarily housed there. They have 50 acres, two plots, one 16 acres on Route 9 and then the one on Old Post Road. But it's a little early to say, but we're really working with the neighbors to try to creatively make this be workable for everybody.
Good.
Well, that's the best case scenario. If you garner the support of the neighbors, you bring us a plan that will work for you guys, we bring out the public hearing, everyone says this is a great plan.
Sure. Sure, but
Let's-
as it,
let's
that's
adopt the law.
wishful thinking in the future. We're working on that, but as it stands right now, let's figure out what we can do over here. We really want to do, after-school programs we have 2 teenagers from Rhinebeck today.
I think we'd all get behind your mission. I mean,
Gotcha.
it all sounds great.
Yep.
It's just a matter of us, we're trying to manage the
Logistics.
neighborhood.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to that note, if we have the map beforehand, we can go out there on Saturday or Sunday, and then when it comes to this meeting on Tuesday, we can actually, have the conversation. When I stood here, I saw this, and, have an idea of what it looks like from there.
Thank you.
If you could put my name down that list.
And I said I was gonna bring sausage, which I have, so.
Wow.
Primrose.
Nice, thank you.
What's the value of this? Are we able to
I've
accept
been
this?
waiting for this.
You can give it away.
If it's under $25, I think we get an
It is
exception.
good. It is very good. For the pig.
Oh,
Love it.
fantastic.
Very nice.
Tom Johnson, I work for the Village of Rhinebeck. And I enjoy my job, but I know you guys are not disagreeing with these guys, but as a farmer, and born and raised on a farm, it's priceless. Just priceless. I can't pay for it, but I just want to leave that with you.
Well, thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. We thought we were going to talk about trees.
I know. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, there's one last,
it was animals.
there's one last thing I forgot. So this is for you guys too. It's our CSA.
I've been waiting for graft.
Okay, so you guys can all.
Puts us over the limit.
And if
Thank you very much.
anyone can take it. There's our CSA, the school has a weekly CSA with all our produce, so.
Nice,
It's in here
thank
for
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
It's my birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, everybody.
It's my wife's birthday today.
Is it?
Yeah.
Boy.
I didn't know.
I know you guys are married.
Where are we going for dinner?
Sausage, peppers, and onions.
Exactly, we're set.
Anything else?
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.
All right.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Thank you, everyone.